My father was a man of his hands. As kids, we used to joke around that when we yelled out his name, Dad, from the top of the stairs and we couldn't hear him, he was 99.9% in the garage, working on something, fixing something, tinkering. He was just always in the garage. I really think it's because he was escaping from us, from us kids. So when he started to show signs of his disease, it was pretty clear. It first started out with, we saw changes in his handwriting. We saw that he would complain that he couldn't get a certain grip on a tool or something that he was working on. He just didn't have the abilities with his hands and fingers like he used to. As the disease progressed, as he walked, he would stumble, and then he had to start using a cane and then a wheelchair, and then eventually was bedridden. So this disease, this neurological degenerative disease, basically for 6 years, my dad was a normal functioning human being who then became a lucid vegetable. My father passed away in 2013. 3 years later, I was having lunch on a Sunday afternoon, beautiful like today, with my mom. And we just had brunch. I noticed that she was looking a little weak and thought that she was just having some iron deficiency. That was something that she had been struggling with. And went to lunch, we went to the grocery store, and then dropped her off back at home. The next morning, I received a phone call, and my mom had a heart attack and passed away. These were two huge events that happened in my early 30s that I just did not think would ever happen. Life was just not panning out how I thought it would. I never thought that I would, in my later 20s, be helping my dad with eating, going to the bathroom, standing up, shaving him, taking care of him while I watched my friends and their, go on vacations with their parents and enjoy holidays when we were looking at medical bills and trying to figure out how to work Medicare and all of that stuff. Life was just not panning out how I thought it would. I never thought that I would lose my parents so early in my life. So of course, to manage these emotions, all I knew to do was escape. And I escaped through the tyranny of more. Instead of facing the issues, I thought, well, why don't I work harder in my job? Why don't I put more effort in? If all these other people are happy, but I'm not happy, so I need to put in more effort, more. I need to consume more. I need to do more. I need to just continue doing more. So I fell into this tyranny of more, thinking that it would bring me fulfillment and happiness. But the tyranny of more just left me chasing the fleeting nature of happiness. So as I was chasing and focusing on building more, I was falling deeper and deeper outside of myself because I was looking for that fulfillment and happiness and validation outside of myself instead of looking within. So I found that the tyranny of more didn't really work. So I would find other ways to escape. And I escaped through workaholism, drinking a lot, and mindless entertainment. I would easily work 10 to 12-hour days, easily. And not because I wanted to, but because I thought I had to, that this is what I had to do in order to be successful. And then I'd come home and I'd want to take the edge off. So I would drink 2 to 4 drinks every single night just to take that edge off, because I just wanted to feel something because I was so overwhelmed. And then I ended up just sitting in front of the TV, watching mindless entertainment or scrolling on my phone. This was my life. Behind my big smile, of course, no one knew that I was suffering but me. I'd wake up, work, drink a lot, watch TV, go to sleep, and repeat. And I'd do that over and over again for years. Does that sound familiar to you? The status quo, or the way that things are, the way that our culture or society has just agreed on something and moved on, it distracts us with its shiny promises of happiness. But the thing is that the happiness that it's promising is just temporary happiness. So we end up in this cycle of constantly chasing this happiness, thinking that the tyranny of more, thinking that doing more, thinking that alcohol and shopping and looking outside of ourselves for validation is what is going to bring us fulfillment and happiness. But the thing is that we just continue on this circle of chasing. We're so busy keeping up with other people's lives and trying to impress other people that we're left exhausted and depleted. So we don't have energy to do anything fun. We think life is just this crazy, insane, boring stress. So we build this life according to the American dream or whatever you want to call it, but we build this life that's based on other people's standards, that we are completely strangers to ourselves. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of being tired. I'm tired of chasing these standards that the status quo, that somebody else made up for me and said, this is what I have to do in order to be happy, instead of thinking and asking myself, what is it that I want to make myself happy and feel fulfilled? I am tired of listening to a culture that says that I am not enough. Aren't you tired of that? So here's the thing. I had to make some pretty life-changing shifts in order to question the status quo, to challenge the status quo, and to live a life on my terms. And it wasn't easy, but it's so possible. So here's the first thing that I did. Going back to the powerful question of asking why. As children, we naturally ask a million why questions. Why does the dog poop that way? Why do rainbows come from the sky? Why is the sky blue? You know, we naturally ask these questions to connect the dots as we're learning and exploring. But through our education, we're taught to stop asking why and instead focus our education on the how and the what. So instead of asking analytical questions, we're taught to just have the right answer. And I think that that is great to an extent, but we need to go back to the beautiful, profound, and simple question of asking why. Because it's within that question of why that we observe, why am I doing this? Why am I behaving this way? Why do I dress this way? Why do I go to work and do this and hustle? And why am I so hard on myself? Why do I have to look like everybody else to be considered enough? Why do I have to be of a certain weight or of a certain body frame to be considered beautiful? The question why is so profound, and it helps you to truly deepen within yourself why we act a certain way, why we say certain things, why we think a certain way. And only you can do this for yourself. But as adults, we need to be asking why. so we can figure out, am I thinking this way because this is how I want to think? Or am I thinking this way because this is what I was taught? This is what I was taught by our culture, by our parents. And is this right for me? So asking the question why, as much as possible, as often as possible, as you get to know yourself. 2, get to know yourself. One of the most fun and exciting things that I ever did for myself was to begin to get to know myself. We live in a culture that says anything that you do for yourself is selfish. Taking time for yourself is not selfish, but that's a whole other talk. Getting to know yourself is a superpower because you get to know your strengths, your weaknesses. You get to know your quirks. You get to know what are those things that make you weird, that maybe you were judged for in school. Look at those things, embrace those things, because that's you, baby. That is so you, and you are meant to be unique. You are not meant to be like everybody else. And those quirky things that make you weird, honey, embrace those things, because that is what makes you unique. And that's what makes you beautiful. But the thing is you have to embrace it. You have to learn to cultivate it and make it a strength. And that's something that only you can do. So one of the things that I recommend as a starting point is take some kind of personality test, like Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. And I'm not saying that this is the end-all be-all. I'm saying this is a great starting point. But there you can learn about your strengths and weaknesses, because your strengths you can hone in on, and your weaknesses you can have self-compassion on. Because here's the thing, is that we live in a culture that teaches us to be incredibly hard on ourselves. Our inner dialogues are so mean to ourselves. I think the most liberating direction is when we're kind to ourselves. Being hard on ourselves makes things hard. Being kind to ourselves makes things manageable. And self-compassion and kindness is so beautiful, because then you're not berating yourself for the littlest thing. You're just like, oh, well, that's me. This is my quirkiness. And you just move on and focus on your strengths. Getting to know yourself, self-awareness, is a superpower. And finally, create a vision. I am not the first speaker to ever talk on creating a vision, nor will I be the last, but there is definitely something to this. Creating a vision helps you to create that roadmap to the life that you want. Because maybe you're like me, where you were living this life that you were being told that you had to live, but you're not happy. So why not come up with a vision, come up with a plan to start building the life that you want? And I'm not saying that this has to happen immediately. I'm saying that this happens slowly and methodically. We've all heard that quote, Rome wasn't built in a day. And honey, your Rome can't be built in a day. It's our immediacy culture that tells us that we have to do everything in a 10-day detox or a 30-day course. But that's just not sustainable. It takes time to build something worth building. And you are worth building a life worth living. A life that's full of happiness and peace. I truly believe that. I invite you to look at the supplemental material that I've provided, and there's a guided workshop called The Ideal Day. This is the exact workshop that I did over 10 years ago, and I never stopped thinking about it. So there's lots of details in that guided workshop. My husband and I, we did this exact exercise, and it took us about 10 years to create the life that we wanted to live. And we now live in an RV, traveling around the US, working remotely, and we're living our version of our ideal life. And I truly believe that you can do that as well. So if you can relate to escaping, whether you're escaping through the tyranny of more, whether you're escaping through drinking too much alcohol or mindless entertainment or workaholism, whatever your vice is that you're escaping from, your life is worth living. Your life is worth living a beautiful life. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I am saying that you can find joy in living what your truth is and not the life that other people want you to live. My name is Glenda Hoon Russell. Thank you so much for listening.